You are standing in a forest. The year is roughly 70,000 BCE. You have your clothes, your shoes, and nothing else. 24 hours. That's all you need to last. Sunrise to sunrise. One single day in the world your ancestors built their entire existence around. You will not make it. Not because you are weak, not because your body has fundamentally changed, but because the gap between having a human body and knowing how to use one in the wild is a gap so vast, so deep, and so invisible to modern eyes that most people never realize it exists until the moment they are standing in it. Let's find out exactly where you fail, and what that failure reveals about the most extraordinary skill set in human history. The first problem hits within minutes. You are cold. The average temperature in the Paleolithic environments your ancestors occupied, the grassy, semi-arid savannas of sub-Saharan Africa, the cooler woodlands of Ice Age Europe, was not the climate-controlled comfort you move through every single day. It shifted, dramatically. Nights dropped close to freezing, even in relatively warm latitudes. A human body wearing thin, modern clothing, exposed to wind and dropping temperatures, begins losing heat faster than most people expect. Your core temperature starts to fall. Your hands go stiff. Your thinking begins to slow before you notice it slowing. Your first instinct is fire. Here is where the gap begins to show. Richard Wrangham, a biological anthropologist at Harvard University, has argued for decades that fire is not just a tool in the human story, it is the engine of it. In his research on the cooking hypothesis, Wrangham makes the case that cooking over flame is what drove the expansion of the human brain, reduced the size of our gut, and created the social rhythm of the human evening. Fire didn't just warm your ancestors, it fundamentally reshaped what they were. And they had it mastered, not perfectly, not easily, but mastered in ways that took a lifetime of daily practice to acquire. You do not have that practice. Starting a fire without a lighter or matches requires a precise combination of dry tinder, correct wood pairings, a working bow drill or hand drill technique, the physical endurance to maintain friction long enough to generate a live ember, and the local knowledge to know which materials in your specific environment will actually work. Studies of modern forager communities consistently show that these skills take years to develop reliably. A child in a traditional Jew Huansi community in the Kalahari Desert, studied extensively by anthropologist James Sussman over years of fieldwork, begins learning fire-making before the age of 10 and refines it through daily practice across years. You have a single afternoon, no teacher, and hands that have never done this before. Without fire, your night is going to be a serious problem. But let's assume you find a workaround. A dry rock face, a cluster of dense brush that breaks the wind enough to keep your core temperature above the danger threshold. You shiver through the early hours, keep moving to generate body heat, and stay alive. Now comes problem number 2. Water. A human body at moderate exertion in a temperate environment loses between 1 and 2 liters of water per hour through sweat and respiration. By the time you feel thirsty, you are already mildly dehydrated. By the time thirst becomes urgent, your judgment is degraded, your coordination is beginning to slip, and your capacity to solve every other problem on this list is measurably impaired. In a modern city, water is 30 seconds away. In a Paleolithic landscape, water is where you know it to be, and knowing where it is requires a mental map of your local terrain that your ancestors built across years of walking the same ground, season after season, following the same animal trails and reading the same vegetation patterns that signaled moisture below the surface. You have never walked this ground before, so you search, you move, you burn energy, you accelerate the very dehydration you are trying to solve. Now add problem number 3, food. This one surprises people. Over 24 hours, starvation is not going to kill you. A healthy adult can go 3 days without food. But the caloric demands of active Stone Age survival are not the demands of sitting still. Moving through rough terrain, keeping warm without shelter, building any kind of windbreak, carrying water, this is sustained hard labor. Daniel Lieberman, a paleoanthropologist and professor of human evolutionary biology at Harvard, has documented that active hunter-gatherers on foraging days burned between 3,000 and 5,000 calories. Without those calories coming in, your energy drops faster than you expect. Your thinking slows, your mood destabilizes, and every subsequent problem becomes harder to solve than it would have been 2 hours ago. And you cannot simply pick up food from the landscape around you. You need to know what is edible and what is not. Your Stone Age ancestors carried an internal botanical encyclopedia built across a childhood of learning from their elders. Which berries, which roots, which leaves, which grubs, which preparation methods, which season, which warning signs. Get it wrong and your 24 hours ends early in the most unpleasant way possible. Let's reconstruct your afternoon. You're crouching beside a shallow creek you found by following the sound of running water downhill, one of the few practical survival instincts that still lives in modern humans as knowledge, not just reflexes. There are plants near the bank. You recognize the shape of some of them, but not enough to be confident. You're thirsty but afraid to drink from an untreated source. You have no fire. The light is angling low through the trees, and the temperature is already dropping. Around you, on a grassy plain 70,000 years ago, the following animals are also likely present: leopards, spotted hyenas, lions, wild boar, wolves. Several of them are better at navigating the dark than you are. Several of them actively hunt by scent. Your ancestors managed this threat by sleeping in groups with rotational watch, by maintaining fires through the night that held large predators at a safe distance, by sleeping in trees or inside caves where the entrance could be observed. You have none of these systems in place. You are alone, shelterless, and the sun is going down. Which brings us to the twist that reframes this entire question. The greatest threat to your survival over 24 hours in the Stone Age is not the cold, it is not the predators, it is not even the hunger. It is the fact that you are alone. Human beings are not solo survival machines. We never were, and we never were designed to be. The entire operating system of the human species is built around collective intelligence, the principle that knowledge is not stored in any single skull, but distributed across the group, maintained in relationships, and transmitted across generations through teaching, imitation, and story. The archaeological evidence supports this completely. Blombos Cave in South Africa, dated approximately 75,000 years ago, has yielded evidence of ochre processing, engraved geometric patterns, and shell bead ornaments, objects that required layers of transmitted knowledge and implied a community in which information was actively shared and preserved. This was not one genius working in isolation. This was a group building and maintaining a shared knowledge base across time. Robin Dunbar, an evolutionary psychologist at Oxford University, developed what became known as the social brain hypothesis, the argument that the dramatic expansion of the human neocortex over the last 2 million years was driven not primarily by the need to solve physical problems in the environment, but by the demands of managing complex, layered social relationships within large groups. Your brain, at its deepest structural level, is a social instrument. It was built to function inside a network of other minds. Strip that network away and you are running the hardware without its software. Your Stone Age ancestor was not a lone survivor. She was a node in a living knowledge network. Her mother knew where water could be found in the dry season. Her uncle knew which wood held an ember longest. The oldest person in her group had survived 2 famines and carried in her memory the emergency foods that no one else thought to look for. Your ancestor did not need to carry all of that knowledge herself. She needed the relationships that gave her access to it at the moment she needed it. You have been dropped into the same landscape with none of those relationships. Your body is capable, your brain is capable, But capability is not the same as competence, and Stone Age competence was not something you acquired alone. It was something you grew up embedded inside. Here is the irony at the center of all of this. The greatest modern humans who would perform best in the Stone Age are not the strongest or the most aggressive or the most fearless. They are the ones who can learn fastest, who can read the most experienced person in any group and position themselves close enough to absorb what that person knows, who can admit what they do not know before it kills them. In other words, the skills that gave your ancestors the best chance of survival 70,000 years ago are strikingly similar to the skills that give people the best chance of navigating any complex, unfamiliar system today. Adaptability, observation, social intelligence, knowing when to follow before you try to lead. You are standing in a forest. The year is 70,000 BCE. You have your clothes, your shoes, and nothing else. The question was never whether your body could survive 24 hours. It probably could, just barely, shivering and hungry and increasingly afraid as the dark comes in. The real question was whether you could carry, inside a single skull, the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 years of people who already learned every one of these lessons the hard way, so that you would never have to learn them at all. You cannot carry it alone. You were never supposed to.